Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're David and Tracy Freck, lead pastors of Church of the Harvest. We're really grateful you took the time to watch this rebroadcast of this past week's message at Church of the Harvest.
Hey, it doesn't matter what time you're joining us. It could be in the middle of the night, it could be during the day. But we trust that the Word of God will minister to your spirit today, and that there will be something that happens in your spirit that you've been longing for.
Absolutely. We're committed to helping you grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ. That's why we provide this message in a format that you can watch anytime you like. So would you do something? Just don't watch it, but also think about how we can connect with you and make a difference in your life. So take the time to send us an email, look at the description below for next steps. However we can engage you, it would be our privilege and our honor to do so. So come on into the service, experience the Word, and let Jesus change your life.
We're in this new series called The Doors, if you can see the doors back there. So the whole tagline for this is knock, knock, who's there? So I got a knock, knock joke for you. Just start the day off. Ready? Knock, knock. Who's there? Gorilla. Gorilla me a hamburger. Da-ding. Come on, where's my drummer at? Next time I got to get a drummer back there next time I do it. Gorilla me a So go use that. It's good. I'll be at the T-Mobile Center next month. All right. It's good to see everybody here today. Today we're starting this new series. Today's going to be The Door Swings Both Ways, February 11th, opening the door of love. Pastor Bethany and I are going to be tag teaming it next week and you talk about how to get to the doors of each other's heart. So it's going to be a really great message next week. We got, by the way, Valentine's Day for the men. Just want to throw it out there. It's February 14th, like every year. Right? So do what you got to do, right? Okay. February 18th, Doors of Opportunity, and February 25th is Who's Knocking. It's going to be a great series, and that's going to take us through February. And by the way, Easter's coming quick. You know Easter's coming quick. Easter is actually in March this year. I believe it's the last day of March. And so invite your family, invite your friends. The place is already getting blown out. We're really going to blow it out. We're probably going to have to put chairs on the stage and do all that kind of fun stuff. But why not? And let's just have a really good Easter event this year. We've had great ones in the last year. Last year, I think we had around 325 people. It's super packed, very good. And so I think 250 of them came to one service. But that's all great. But we're excited about this series called The Doors. So here's what it is. The doors are this: identifying, understanding, and discerning how God uses doors in our lives. So today's message is doors swing both ways. Revelation chapter 3, verse 7. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, the words of the Holy One, the true one, who has the key of David, who opens, no one will shut, who shuts, and no one opens. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but a little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. So here's what we know about doors. Here's what we know about them, is that God opens doors that no man can close, and God closes doors that no man can open. So this tells me something. This tells me that God uses doors in our lives to get us to our destiny. So he uses doors. He opens them, he closes them. And so what's destiny? Destiny is this. Destiny is God's plan and purpose for his children, which is us who believe, conceived long before we were born. How many of you know that God already had a plan for you before you did? And his plan trumps ours, by the way. He had a plan from the beginning, right? And so today we're going to talk about Joseph, this man of destiny. He was a man of destiny. Well, his destiny was that he would save his family from a famine, that he would save them from starvation. That was his destiny. And so here's what happened with Joseph. Well, how many of you know that we don't know the end result of what our life's going to look like? And honestly, I don't even know the potential of what I'm going to do yet. Like I don't know the complete destiny. God's put desires in me. God's put dreams in me. But I haven't hit this complete understanding of the destiny for me. See, Joseph was younger, he didn't know that he was going to save his family from the famine. I mean, we read the chapter, we read verses chapter 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, and we can see the big picture. But Joseph couldn't see the big picture. You know, all he saw was the dream that God gave him. And it's like that with you and I. We really don't know, like we try to put together plans or we try to think of what we want to do. But it could be that God wanted something different for us. And so Joseph, he was a man of destiny. He had his destiny. His destiny was to save his family from the famine. Well, he didn't even know that, by the way. He didn't even know that. Even when God gave him a dream, God gave him these two dreams. The first dream God gave him were these 11 bundles of wheat, and these 11 bundles of wheat came and bowed down to him. What that symbolizes was, what it symbolizes is Joseph's brothers were one day going to bow down to him. He had a second dream where the moon, the sun, and 11 stars bowed down to him. So this is all he had to work with was he had a dream. He had a dream from God. He had this dream about his family bowing down. He had this dream about his brothers bowing down. That's really all he had to hold on to. He didn't really know the end of his destiny. He didn't even know really what God was actually going to do with him and the potential of where he would end up. So I'm going to talk about 4 kinds of doors God uses to get us to our destiny. 4 kinds of doors. Ephesians 1:11, I want to just say this. In him we have obtained an inheritance of being predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. First, I want to tell you that God works things to the counsel of his will, not our will. Come on, in other words, the doors that God creates for us, he can get us places that we can't get by ourselves. And so he has these 4 kinds of doors that God uses to get us to our destiny. And we know this, when God gives the destiny, we can be sure of this, that he will do everything on his end to make it happen. He'll do everything on his end to make it happen. You might not agree with the way he does it. You might not know the way he does it. But he'll do everything on his end to get us to our destiny. So the first door is this. The first door that God uses is unwanted doors. God will allow us to go through things we do not want to get us to the place where we need to be. He'll allow us to go through things we do not want. So here's Joseph. Joseph, man, he was his daddy's favorite. His daddy had him a coat of many colors. He was favored by his dad because his mom was Rachel. He loved Rachel more than his other wives, and this is a good thing we only have one. He was favored, and he had a maid, man. He was the baby at the time. Benjamin came a little later, but he was favored, and his brothers hated it. He had 11 brothers that despised him. Or 10 at the time, I guess, and he had his brothers despised him. They hated him because he would gloat about his dream. Hey brothers, can I remind you about the wheat dream, about you bowing down to me? And his brothers hated him. He hated the dream. The brothers hated the dream. And one day Jacob told Joseph, hey, go check on your brothers. Tell me how they're doing. Come on back. And as Joseph was going to see his brothers, their brothers saw him at a distance, and they were like, oh, hey, I got this idea. Let's kill him. Let's kill the dreamer. Right. Like they really hated him that much that they wanted him dead. So they had this plan. They were like, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We'll throw him in a pit. We'll throw him in a pit and just leave him there. But Reuben, the older brother, was like, well, at first they said they were going to kill him. And then the older brother talked him into putting him in the pit because he had this plan. I'm going to come back and rescue him later on. But then they had this other idea. They're like, why would we leave him in a pit if we can get some money for him? So they sold him for 20 shekels. And so they sold him to some Midianite traders or Ishmaelites. And he ended up in a place of slavery in Egypt. How many of you know this is an unwanted door? He ended up, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to choose my path to destiny, I'm not going to choose the path that's going to put me in slavery. I'm not going to choose the path that's going to take me to Egypt. I got good plans. I'm making, want to hear my plans? I'm making $175,000 a year. I'm remotely working from home. I get DoorDash at 11:30 a.m. every day. Come on, I'm planning my life right now, right? I wouldn't plan hardship. I wouldn't plan anything hard in my life. I would stay away from that, right? But God will give us unwanted doors in order to get us to a place of destiny. So I wouldn't have chosen it. He probably has something else in mind, just like I would. He probably thought he'd be in a place of honor instead of a place of slavery. He had the dream that his mom and his dad was bound down to him and his brothers were bound down to him. So he probably had something in his mind saying, hey, you know what, one day, I'm going to be in a place of high honor. Now all of a sudden he finds himself in Egypt. He finds himself a slave to Potiphar. And here's here's an example of unwanted doors. These are doors that you wouldn't necessarily choose, but they chose you. Like God gave Joseph a dream, God gives each and every one of us something inside of us, a desire or a dream. I remember when sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes I'm up here and while I'm preaching, something goes through my mind thinking, like, what are you doing? Like right in the middle of the message, I'm like, how did you get here? Or why are you here? It goes through my head while I'm up here thinking, I'm like, so I'm like, how did I get here? And I'll tell you how we got here is we got here through some unwanted doors. Unwanted doors. I remember, like, when we got saved, I remember they were like, hey, you want to go, we need some help in the nursery. You want to come help in the nursery? And I'm like, no. I got a baby. I can't keep quiet at home. You think I want 5 more, 7 more? But how many of you know, come on now, you got to walk in the unwanted door. So we walked in, it's like, all right, yeah, we'll watch kids. And we went in the unwanted door. By the way, this is an awesome door, very well made. And I walked in the door. There are more unwanted doors. I remember like we were asked, hey, you want to lead a life group or a small group, and I'm like, no, but I will. Right. You mean I got to go meet people? You mean I got to go to their house and go and more than one night to church a week? Are you kidding me? Unwanted doors. Or I remember the children's church. I was like, this time I didn't even have a choice. I was told I'm going to do the children's church. All right. Hey, I'm going to go. Unwanted door. I can't do this too much longer. We're out of time. But I remember we did an outreach where we went to an apartment complex. And we would minister to people at this apartment complex. And again, it wasn't an option for me. And I could have easily just backed away. But instead, I went into the place that was uncomfortable. I went to the place of an unwanted door. Or I remember when we started the church, I remember the Lord was like, hey, we had this dream in us to start a church, and we're like, we don't have any money or any people. It's easier to start with 50 people, 75 people, or 100 people and some money. No, we started with nothing, and we went through another, unwanted door. And these are doors that I think we all have, and we all go through, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be the guy I am today without going through all these unwanted doors. Do you want me to tell you where I learned to teach? Kids. I learned to teach kids. That's why you always see me with all my fun projects and such. Because that's where I learned to teach. I learned to teach kids. I wouldn't have gone to somewhere else if I wasn't able to teach kids or be willing to do whatever it is that God says. I want to just suggest to you, one major sign that you are doing what God wants is that you are doing something that is stretching your faith, that is constantly making you uncomfortable. So if you're only doing the things that you're comfortable with, can I just challenge, maybe you keep on staying away from the unwanted doors and you only walk in the doors that you want to. When God says, if you want to reach your destiny, you're going to have to go through these unwanted doors, because there is a difference between a dream and a destiny. The dream is just a piece of the destiny, but it's not the destiny. See, God may put a desire in us, but the destination may look different than we expect. Where we think we're going to end up may not be exactly where you do end up. You might have this thing in your heart that I'm going to do this, and you start making your plans. Here's what Proverbs 16:9 says. The heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. In other words, we make these plans, but God is the ultimate one who will direct our plans. How many of you know this? What if your plan for your life is not the plan God wants to establish in your life? It could be that we are trying to set up a plan that we want rather than what God wants. And this is the danger of us, even in America, and living in a place of comfort and more than enough, is that, here's the reality, we have more than enough, and we want to keep on having more than enough until everything becomes completely comfortable. And we end up not going through these unwanted doors that God has set up for us. See, here's the reality. God has the final say of what your destiny is. I know people say, you create your destiny. No, I don't want to create my destiny. I want to follow God's destiny for my life. And it may take me to an unwanted door. God allows us to go through things just as Joseph was stripped of his coat. He allows us to get stripped of our own identity so that we can become more like him. He'll take us to places that are uncomfortable for us so that he can put the new in us. So the first door is the unwanted door. Come on, if you ain't gone through the unwanted door yet, you're missing out on your destiny. The second door that God uses to get us to our destiny is the door of decision. The door of decision. See, what happened next is that Joseph, he got sold into slavery to this Egyptian official named Potiphar. Well, I'll tell you what, this is what happened with Joseph, man. He prospered no matter where he was. He worked and he served the Lord, and he believed that there was a destiny, and he believed that there was something greater. And what he did is he served Potiphar with all of his strength, and he served him so well that what Potiphar did was he gave him authority over basically all of his doings, all of his affairs, and he became basically one of the household. But how many of you know this, that when you're doing good with the Lord, we get the enemy's attention? Come on, when you're doing good with the Lord, all of a sudden you become attractable. Come on, before you couldn't get a date for nothing. Just throwing it out there. Right? But then you come to Christ, all of a sudden, man, you're like, man, why does everybody like me? Can I tell you, it's the same old trick the enemy uses over and over and over. He uses, I'm saying if you're single, be careful. Be careful, because when you're doing well, come on now, here comes the plant. Here comes the one to try to knock you off track of your relationship with God. And this is what happened to Joseph. There was a Potiphar's wife. Let me just read a little bit about her. And after a time, his master's wife, Potiphar's wife, cast her eyes on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused. And he said to his master's wife, "Behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in my house. He trusts me. And he's put everything that he has in my charge." And as he spoke to Joseph as she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not listen to her, to lie beside her or to be with her. I want to tell you something about the enemy. He is relentless, and he will keep on speaking in your ear. He'll keep on going at you. He'll keep on trying to get you to fail until you finally give in. I'm telling you, this is what he does. This is why I love the Word of God, because it shares with us the enemy's tactics and the enemy's plans. And this is what Potiphar's wife was doing. But it says, here's what I love. But one day, I love that scripture. But one day. It can be good or it can be bad. Come on, King David. But one day. He was in the palace when he should have been out fighting. But one day. But one day, when he went into the house to do his work, listen, you don't know when the temptation's coming. You don't know when the fight's coming. Listen, the enemy will wait for the opportune time to take you down. And he don't care if you're 12, and he don't care if you're 62. He's going to wait for an opportune time to take you down. But one day, he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was there in the house. She caught him by his garment and said, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and got out of the house. Listen, here's the thing. The door of decision for Joseph, the door of decision was to engage in sexual activity with Potiphar's wife or flee and follow him. In other words, he's like, I got a decision to make. I got a door here and I got a door here. See, sometimes we get multiple choices on what to do, on what we're going to do. See, the door of decision is to choose what's right over what feels good. Amen. Matthew 7:13, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter it by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. And those who find it are few. I want to tell you today, it's easy to sin. Come on, it's easy to give in. Come on, Joseph was probably somewhere around 17 years old at the time, probably never been with the woman, and she's coming up. I mean, he's got to have real feelings. Nobody's around. Oh, God won't mind. I'm in the dungeon anyways. I'm already a slave. I might as well become a greater slave. We start justifying, hey, we're not coming out of this. We're already here anyways. And what happens is, listen, it's easy to take the road. It's easy to fall in. Come on. It's hard to say no. It's hard to do what's right. Come on, it's hard. It's hard. It's harder sometimes to be a Christian than it is in a lot of ways, because I didn't have to say no to nothing. I didn't have to resist the devil. I was on his side. I was going with the river rather than against the river. And this is the gate. This is the decision. What am I going to take? Am I going to take the narrow gate that leads to life, or am I going to take the broad door that leads to death? Which one am I going to take? Because listen, here's what happens. If we take the wrong door of decision, we will find our destiny either delayed or derailed. Here's what happens. You take the wrong door. You take the wrong one. Here's what happens is got to unlock it. That's really how it is, you know. The Lord will do everything he possibly can to keep you from going in this door. But sometimes we go over and beyond. We're like, well, I'm just going to, we have to actually take some effort in unlocking it so that we can get out. And we know what we're doing, and then we're like, looks good out there. Ooh, I could be free out there. And so what happens is, if we take the wrong, you take this door, what happens is you immediately get derailed from your destiny. Derailed means knocked off the tracks, not moving nowhere. When a train gets derailed, destruction follows. Come on, there's damage that occurs. And that's what happens when we walk through the wrong door of decision. What happens is we become a derailed train. And so many people have been derailed in their faith. Come on, can I talk to somebody today? You've been derailed in your faith. You've seen people with such great potential, they never reached it because they were derailed, because they kept on taking the wrong door, the wrong decision, and they kept on going down a wrong path where they're causing damage, and they're damaged, and things are hurt, and things are, you see it over and over and over and over, and you're like, oh man, God has such a plan for them. God could have done so much for them, and so nothing, and so they end up missing out on the calling and the destiny that God had for them. But here's what I love. I love this part of it. But you can get back on the track today. Can I tell you can get back on the track today? I don't know, maybe you've been derailed, maybe you've been off the track, maybe there's been damage caused. But listen, all it takes is, confess your sins, and he's faithful and just to cleanse you of all unrighteousness. Come on now, call upon the name of the Lord and you shall be saved. He'll put you right back on that track. Put you right back on that track. Let me tell you, choices we make, there are consequences. There are things we do when we do things. Come on now. Here's what happens. We might be back on the track, but it does cause delay in the destiny. Because of what we've done in the past, what happens is you got to spend the next 8 years, 10 years building your name back up. Building your integrity back up. Bringing trust back up. Come on, it's real. It doesn't, you're not like, you're no good and nothing's going to happen, but it does delay things. That's just the reality of it. It delays some of the things that God wants to do because he's got to build us back up. This is why we got to continue to make this door, the good door of decision, because here's how we do it. We overcome temptation when our belief in our destiny is greater than the temporary pleasure. You got to believe that God has something better for you, and you're doing something for him over that temporary fix. You got to believe it. I got to believe that if I walk through this door and make this choice, that something greater is going to happen for the purposes of God and in my life and in the lives of the other people that are around me, that I'm going to affect people in a positive way. Here's what he did. He fled from her. That was what he did. He fled. How many of you know that you cannot win against sexual temptation without running away? Come on, somebody. Am I talking to somebody in the room today? I'm talking about like get rid of cable. Go back to the flip phone. Come on. No, I'm just telling you. The way you win is that you got to run. That's the only way. That's the only way he can win is if he ran, and he ran. I'm making the decision to turn away from that and run to Jesus. Come on, turn away from it. Run away, and get into his presence. See, as soon as she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and he had fled out of the house, she began to say, rape, 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 rape. She did, and so the door. But here's what the door does. Here's what the door decision does. How we exit one door will determine how we enter the next door. How we exit one door will determine how we exit the one door. So when we do what's right, or we do honorably, I'm in this season and I'm responding right. What I do out of this door will determine what happens in the next season. Tonight at prayer, I'm going to share a testimony I've never really shared before. It's going to be really good. And she's laughing at me because I think everything's good. But I want to share something with you about this entire message. I want to share something with you that I think will encourage you and strengthen you in what we do. So how we exit one door will determine how we enter the next door. All right, number 3, the third kind of door that God uses to get us to our destiny is closed doors. Closed doors. So because of the false accusation of Joseph raping Potiphar's wife, Potiphar put Joseph in the dungeon. He put him in prison. This time he wasn't even living in Potiphar's house anymore. Now he's actually in a prison. In other words, come on now, the door closed. Genesis 39:20, and Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. And he was there in prison. So it appeared that the door was closed for any further way to see the dream come to pass. I mean, think about it. Now he's in prison. Remember, he had the dream, his brother's bound down, his dad, and he really doesn't have any idea what his complete destiny is. All he had to do is hang on to the dream. Hang on to what God showed him. And now he's sold in slavery, things were going okay, and now he's been falsely accused. Come on, going to attack on his character. Now he finds himself in a prison. I don't know about you, but I would really begin to start losing hope. Joseph wasn't going to see anything buried in the prison of Egypt. And here's the thing about closed doors. Closed doors are the hardest to take. You ever wanted a job and you just didn't get it? You ever went out for a basketball team and got cut? and you knew that you were better than some of the players? I'm talking about myself right now. See, when we hear closed doors, we automatically think rejection. Right. We automatically think rejection. And I want to change your frame of mind and say, don't think of when God closes a door that no man can close, but he does it. Don't think of it as a rejection. What he's trying to do is recalibrate some things. He's trying to recalibrate some things in our life. And because here's what happens with us is that closed doors they're really an important part of the process when reaching our God-given destiny. Because one of the things that closed doors do, it's where our character's proved. You go through a person who's got a closed door in their life, and all of a sudden things start seeping out. Genesis 39:22 says, and the keeper of the prison, here's what Joseph did. Joseph kept on working like he did for Potiphar. He did the same thing while he was in prison. Come on, he didn't let his circumstance determine the way that he was going to serve the people that were around him and serve the Lord. And so this is what happened. Joseph was in charge of, and the keeper in the prison put Joseph in charge, all the prisoners who were in prison. So not Joseph's, he was in charge of Potiphar's house. Now he's in charge of the prison. It's like, come on, man, really? I mean, the Lord was with him. Whatever was done there, I love this. He was the one who did it. Oh, you need help here? I'm here. You need help over here? I'll do that. Come on, the man's in prison. Door just got closed on him, and he's like, I'm your guy. Because here's a few things that closed doors do. They prove our character. Have you ever had a job or something and somebody was chosen over you? And this is when the ugliness of our heart and the immaturity is exposed. Is when closed doors happen. All of a sudden, we're poor me. We become the victim of what's going on. And what happens is we begin to show the ugliness. If there is the ugliness in us, all of a sudden we're like, you start talking bad about this person or that person. You quit seeing the best in them. The ugliness and the immaturity begins to come out of our heart. See, here's what the closed doors do. They prove our character. They prove if you're going to be long-suffering or not. Are you willing to suffer for the cause of Christ? It's checked his faithfulness, right? Is he going to be trustworthy even with the door closed? Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get this. I didn't, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be involved anymore. If you've been in ministry any time along, you know what I'm talking about. It also proves your faith, endurance. Come on, do you have what it takes to go and go and go and go? Because listen, I'm just telling you, in this race, it's a long race. It's a race. It begins to prove, can I face the adversity and get, even though things are wearing me out, I built up an endurance to keep on going, even though things are difficult. You talk about cross-country runners, right? What are they doing? They're building up a endurance to keep on going and 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 going. Well, if Daphne's not training when it comes time for the meet, come on, when it comes time, where it's like, it's obvious you ain't doing nothing. So when doors closed and then we don't have any endurance, it's obvious that we weren't preparing and training. How about perseverance? Are we able to take the weight? It shows how much weight you can take when doors are closed. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, man, they can't even make it they barely make it to, I'm glad they make it to church, but they're not going any further to go into discipleship. They're not going any further to, come on now, grow and learn. They're not going any further. And so you're saying, okay, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this. I'm saying, okay, there's some weight that they can't take. This is as far as they can go. This is what happens when we back off because circumstances prove that we're not ready. Here's what happens when we back off. It proves that we're not ready for the next. Here's what else it proves. Here's the big one. It proves our motives. Proves our motives. When doors are closed and you begin to have the little pity party. Oh, I didn't get it. Well, who were you doing it for in the first place? It proves that we weren't really doing it for Jesus anyway. We were just doing it for ourselves.
That's good.
Am I still on the door decision? No, I'm on closed doors. These are what closed doors do. They prove our character. See, closed doors do not mean the door is not the right door. It also just might not be the right time for it. Come on, right now the door might be locked for you, but it's going to be unlocked later. So even though you might have a door that's closed, it doesn't mean that it's closed for good. It might just mean that the timing's off a little. Timing's off. I remember years ago, Pastor Bethany and I, we got asked to, friends of ours were starting a church in Overland Park, and they were going to pay for our Bible college and everything, and they really like, we see the gift in you, we want to do this, and you know, at first we were like, yeah, that sounds awesome, but then we realized, you know what, the timing's off. The timing, the reality was this, and this is what we said, is we're not ready. We're not ready. Sometimes people I want this dream to happen so bad that I'm going to try to keep on going and pursuing and knocking down doors that are closed. I was like, I'm not ready. And this is what I told Pastor Bethany. I said, I'm not ready because I don't want to hurt anybody. Come on now, leading a church is a really God-fearing, sobering thing that I don't want to hurt anybody with my words. I don't want to hurt anybody with my actions. And I was willing to say, God, I'm not ready for this, you know. And we went through, I got the training I needed a different way. I'll share that with you tonight. I got the training I needed a different way. But I'm just telling you right now is that I was okay saying no and not barging myself in something just because we did know what the Lord wanted for us, but we were willing to say no because we were waiting on the timing of God. So sometimes, listen, closed doors don't mean the door's not the right door. It just means the timing's not right. And also, here's what closed doors do. They make us move into another direction. Closed doors make us move, man, my writing. Closed doors make us move us into another direction. Sorry, it's my English. So here's the thing about it. When a door closes, God may be redirecting you to do something different. God may be redirecting you to do something different. Here's what we get stuck in. I've always done this, so this is what I'm going to do. I've always done this, so this is what I'm going to do. I've always worked with adults, so I'm never going to work with kids. I've always worked with adults, well, I'm never going to work with adults, right? We do this stuff. This is all I know, so this is all I do. What if God closed the door and said, I want you to do something that you didn't think you can do? What if I need to broaden what you do so you don't become one-dimensional anymore? And you can minister to adults, you can minister to teenagers, you can minister to everybody, and we begin to say, no, you know what, God, I'm not going to get stuck into this and say, just because I've always have, this is what I'll always do. Listen, here's the thing about it is that we got to be willing to do what God wants us to do. So sometimes if there's a closed door, come on now, this is what he's doing. He may be redirecting you to do something else. He may be redirecting you to do something else. I remember when I worked at Saya, and you know, I thought when we become full-time here at the church that it would be easy. It wasn't. I worked at Saya for 15 years where I had a paycheck every Wednesday. And I liked my paycheck because I knew what I got on every Wednesday. It was more money than I'm getting making here. My insurance was free. After 10 years, they gave your insurance for free. I thought, you know what? I can't wait to put these keys up and not drive this truck ever again. I couldn't quit. I couldn't. I was holding on to something that was comfortable and safe. I was supposed to quit 2 weeks before I did here. And I had a hard time doing it. Because coming here, you know what it requires? Faith. If you guys don't give, I don't have a job. If the church doesn't grow, come on. I mean, it's like it's going to require faith. And so I'm like, oh, this is so stable. This is so good. I know what I get every Wednesday. My insurance is paid for. This is the easiest thing to do. But I'll tell you what, those last 2 weeks when I was working there, the grace ran out. Like I was like the star driver until those last 2 weeks. It was like Jonah who was causing trouble for everybody. Like driving the truck, like for 15 years, God's grace was there, man, because I can't drive a car, and I drove a truck for 15 years. You want to talk about grace? Those 2 weeks, I couldn't drive a truck for nothing. I'm running over things, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Sometimes we run into places where doors are closing so that God can redirect us. The Lord was helping me get out of there and take the leap of faith here. And God's calling us sometimes, hey, listen, get out of what's comfortable and take the leap somewhere else and start doing things that might not be what you've always done. Genesis 41, sometime after this, the cupbearer. Oh, yeah. Let me kind of catch this story up. So now he's in the prison. And here's what happens. God was redirecting his Joseph to be in position to meet the man who was right next to the the Pharaoh all the time. So while he was in prison, the chief baker and cupbearer of the king end up in prison with Joseph. What a coincidence. No, there was no coincidence. God closed the door to redirect Joseph to go in the prison so that he could be in front of the cupbearer and the chief baker. The cupbearer and the chief baker, they both had these dreams. Joseph was like, hey, tell them to me. They began to tell them to him. He gave the interpretation. He said in 3 days to the cupbearer, you're going to have your position back. He told the baker, I got some bad news for you. You're going to die. That's fun, huh? Nobody likes to tell the judgment piece of it. So here's what happened is he, at some time, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker committed an offense, and they ended up in prison, right? So both of them had dreams, and so he set him up so that he could interpret the dreams. He would have never had this connection if it wasn't for the closed door. This takes me to number 4, which is an open door. This brings us to the 4th door God uses in our destiny, the open doors. Now the cupbearer, he went back to his position, and Joseph was like, hey, remember me? You know, and he forgot about him the minute he got back to his position, right? Well, 2 years later, Pharaoh has a dream. Pharaoh has a dream. He has 2 dreams, actually. The first one were there were seven bundles of wheat, 7 stalks of wheat, and they were unhealthy, and 7 healthy bundles of wheat came and overtook it. The second dream was he saw 7 healthy cows, and then 7 sick cows came and basically devoured the healthy cows. And Pharaoh's like, what does this dream mean? Does anybody know? And it just happened that the cupbearer is sitting right next to Pharaoh. You don't think he's involved in every area of our lives? And then listen to what the cupbearer says. Then the chief cupbearer says, oh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I having a dream with his own interpretation. A young Hebrew was in there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to give us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And he, as he interpreted to us, it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when they had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. Here's what happened. God opened a door that no man can open. There ain't no way a young Hebrew man could come from the land of Canaan and get in front of the most powerful ruler on the earth at that time, which is Pharaoh. And so he's here, and how could a prisoner get in front of the most powerful ruler in the world? He can only get there through a door that only God can open. This is what happened. That's the only way that he could get there. So Joseph goes on, he tells him the dream. He said, hey man, this is what it means. For the first 7 years, you're going to prosper. He said, and then the second 7 years is going to be famine. So 7 years of prosperity, 7 years of famine. And not only this, he's like, and I got a plan for you. Here's what you ought to do. How many of you know that God will give you wisdom beyond your age and give you wisdom in every situation? And he's like, okay, here's what you do. He said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to begin to set some of the grain aside for the next 7 years. We're going to have enough to not only take care of us in Egypt, but people from all over the world are going to come, and we're going to be, you're going to be set up, Pharaoh. And you know what? It pleased the Pharaoh. This is what it says in Genesis 41. The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Can God find a person like this right now in this room? Can he find somebody like this who's willing to go through every door that he has for him? Can God find that person? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all of this, there is none so discerning and wise as you. Listen to what happens. Just a few hours before that, he was in the pit. Come on, he hadn't shaved or bathed. That's why he had to shave, because he had a big old beard. Probably looked like John the Baptist. Like his clothes were prison clothes, and now he's wearing royal clothes. And he says, you shall be over. This is what he says to him. This is what God will do to you if you walk through the unwanted doors and you make the right decision on the door of decision, and what you do when God closes the door and puts things in front of you, and you listen, it's not poor me, it's God's redirecting me, and now here's what happens. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. Come on, this is what God did with this Hebrew boy. He took him from a place of the pit one day, come on now, and put him in front of the Pharaoh the next day. He's like, listen, you're not just going to be one of my servants. You're going to be number 2 in charge of all of Egypt. Everybody who comes is going to bow down to you like they're going to bow down to me. Here's my ring. Here's the signet. Whatever you command. Come on now. It's good and it's law because of the position you're in. Put a robe on him. And I'm just telling you, this is what God will do for somebody who's willing to walk through the doors that he has for us. Now I want to end with this. Man, I still got a lot. But this is when the dream comes to pass. This is when the dream comes to pass. Some of you know the dream. The dream is not the destiny, but this is when the dream comes to pass. Because of the large famine in the land, it was affecting Joseph's family, which was in the land of Canaan. So here's what Jacob, his father, did. He's like, hey, boys, I need you to go to Egypt and get some grain, because the only people that had any type of food at this place, because the famine was so great, was Egypt. And so Jacob sent his sons to get some grain. And when they got to Egypt, this is what happened. You ready? Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Well, come on now, it's coming to pass. Like all of these, he went through the unwanted door. He went through the door of decision. God closed the door to redirect him, so that he could open a door for him to go to Pharaoh. And so he's standing before his brothers right now, and Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. Where do you come from? He said rough, like that's how rough I talk. It's pretty tough, huh? I'm real tough on my girls, haven't I been? Yeah. Where do you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, and he began to, you spies, he began to give them a lot of trouble, testing them to see kind of if they changed or not. But here's the thing, Joseph remembered the dream that he had. And I want you to know this about like Joseph's destiny. His destiny was not his brothers bowing down to him. His destiny was in saving his family from the famine. It was about giving life. Because here's the thing about it. Joseph's destiny was never about a position, but about God's purpose. This is what it was. Worship team, you can come up. This is what it came about the whole time. Joseph's destiny was never about a position, but about God's purposes. So I'm going to read the end here. His brothers came back. They had a lot of interaction with his brothers, and here's the final time they came, and Joseph could not control himself. He has his brothers in front of him, before all who stood before him, and he cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it and the household of Pharaoh heard it. Man, there was some crying going on. I mean, he saw his family again. He saw God's faithfulness through it all. He saw life happening again. And Joseph said to his brothers, this is my favorite part. He said, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" You got to remember, they have not seen him in roughly 13 years. 13 years at this time. Actually, I take that back. It's about 18 years at this time. They haven't seen him for 18 years. It's hard to recognize somebody if you ain't seen him in 10 years. You ever go to a 10-year reunion and you can't recognize nobody? Nobody recognized me. He said, "Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me." And they came near, and he said, "I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold in Egypt." Come on, you gave me a door that I didn't want, but I'm so glad that I got it. Because he goes on and he says, "And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life." God has a destiny for you and I to help someone find the life in Jesus Christ. There's a destiny for you and I to walk in, and here's the reality of it. It's not an easy journey. A lot of us, we want an easy journey, but I just want you to start embracing the doors that God has placed in our lives. Because I want to tell you that God has God had given Joseph unwanted doors of decision. He closed doors, and he opened doors to reach his God-given destiny of saving his family. This is the destiny. That was his destiny. His destiny was not people bowing down to him. The destiny was not being second in charge of all of Egypt. That was never his destiny. His destiny was to give life to his family and preserve life. You and I, that's our destiny. And in order for us to get there, we got to go through unwanted doors. Come on, we're going to have to make decisions that lead us into the right way. We're going to have to embrace the closed doors because God may be redirecting us, and we got to walk through the open doors that he creates. So would you stand up with me today? Hope it challenged you in some ways. Every time I walk through a door now, I think about all these doors. It's like, is this an open door, closed door, an unwanted door? What is this today? I thought about, I want to share a story tonight. I thought about sharing 5 ways to discern if it's a God-given door. I don't know. I might do that too. I don't know. Probably not. I only got an hour. So, and we're praying. So, I don't know, man. I was in first service today, and I just, I was just watching some people that I know their stories, and I was watching them, how they were worshiping, and how they stepped in they were in some unwanted doors in their marriage, unwanted doors in their family, and how they just decided to just cling to Jesus and see Jesus begin to bring freedom and restoration, and things begin happening in their families. It just blesses me so much that we don't always have doors that we want, but they're the doors that are going to bring life to others. So I don't know, maybe you're going through that. Maybe you've, the door decision, maybe you made the wrong choice. Maybe you've taken the easy way and you've been derailed. I want to tell you today's the day. Just run to Jesus today. This is the good thing about him, man. He can put you right back on that track. And I love this about Jesus is he don't hold nothing against you. Our sins are forgiven as far as the east is from the west, and he doesn't hold nothing against you. I mean, I'm so thankful that my sin is covered by the blood of the Lamb. It's been purchased. My life's been bought. I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. This life I live in the flesh. I have faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Come on, let's get back on the track today. If that's you today, and if you've been derailed today, let's get on the track today. And then close doors. Maybe we're going through some hard times today, and it seems like there's maybe, hey, I'm being overlooked, or I'm being missed, or I didn't get what I thought I'd get. Let's respond in faith. And then last is, I know that God's going to open some great doors. He already is. I'm excited for what he's doing, what's going on, but we got to walk through the first 3 doors to get to the open door. And God's going to take you places you never thought you could go. I'm telling you, man, he just keeps on blowing me away. So we're going to enter into what we call Church Interactive right now. This is where we worship together. This is where we have our prayer team up here if anybody needs prayer. Our communion table is open if you or your family want to take communion. And this is where we give of our tithe and our offering. We give God our best and our first fruits. And this is our act of worship today. So let's enter into Church Interactive.